Quebec City has held its place on the St Lawrence River for more than 400 years, withstanding wars and wild weather.
It's exactly the same shops. Nothing has changed.
This is where Canadian Army doctor Mark Dufan and some of his colleagues arrived from Afghanistan in 2009.
I was waiting for my husband to come back, and what I had was, I think for a while, a shell. It was not there. As the time passes, I see, he's coming back. It's like a plant that almost died, and by good care and good water and with the sun, and it's picking up. But a part of him didn't come back.
The Americans sent 3 people to replace me. So that goes to show you that they had figured it out about right.
What do you think about that?
Well, hey, I did it, but at what cost, ask my family and ask my wife, at what cost I did that.
Last week we brought you the story of how Mark and I met in Afghanistan 4 years ago on what turned out to be one of the most confronting days either of us had ever experienced. Mark didn't know it then, but the trauma he endured trying to treat victims of war day in, day out would follow him home. Post-traumatic stress disorder brought him to the brink of suicide.
When did you realise that you were in a bit of trouble?
When I thought about killing myself.
Mark ran a combat hospital for 6 long months during one of the busiest times of the war.
I'm an old guy, I should be retired now, and I spend my time in Afghanistan doing this crazy work, so you have to do it for the love of your brothers in arms and to try and help the people here.
Bay 1 and 4 is free and ready to go.
The second Obama surge was just happening as we were there.
5 is probably ready to go.
We're expecting about 600, maybe 700 major traumas, and we got about double that.
Many of those coming into the hospital were children.
Women and children always pay. That's what's worse. That's all.
He's speaking out about his experiences because many of his colleagues can't yet find the words to describe what war is really like.
People back home should know about this. They should know this is what's happening. This is not just numbers in the news between the latest hockey scores and the latest automobile commercials. This is real.
It's sort of like Hogwarts to me. It's got all these old musty places and old dark stairs, and it's 350 years old this year. It was founded in 1663.
Now that Mark is home, he relishes all that's comforting and familiar. He brings me here to his old school in Quebec City, a place full of memories.
Enormous amount of memories. Those classrooms over there, they were our bread and butter. That was our everyday life.
His ongoing recovery from post-traumatic stress has taught him lessons too.
This was destroyed by that.
You're allowed to fall down. You just have to get back up, that's all. I think it's the same old me. I think it's, of course, there's a part that will always be over there, that will always be left over there. But other than that, I came out okay.
Underneath the buoyant exterior, Mark Dufan is intensely private and proud to a fault. It was excruciatingly difficult for him to admit he was struggling and needed help.
For a physician and for a soldier, it's humiliating. It makes you humble.
In what way?
Well, you say, well, me too, I can crack too, so I'm not that big old tough rock that I thought I was. And that's why I don't want to go back to that again.
Mark has left the army and emergency medicine. He's no longer prepared to put himself through the trauma.
Of course, when you're in the emergency room, you have to be perfect all the time, although you're not.
Some of Mark Dufan's comrades are still in uniform.
Pay attention to the words of command.
Flight medic Eric Manther is using his experience from Afghanistan to teach a new generation of Canadian soldiers. He was in Kandahar at the same time as Mark.
Course!
I've done a lot of letting go. It doesn't belong to me anymore. I did what I had to do, and I've done it. It's changed me in my life that I have today, but I'm letting go of everything that I can't change.
And easy.
He's one of the few who knows what Mark really went through.
This! This!
Look at me. Look at me. I'm a civilian. Come on, Sara, man.
I'm looking good.
I'm looking good, yeah.
What's with the hair?
I know, I got hair now. They let you grow your hair when you're a civilian.
I know.
Mark was stationed at this base in Quebec when he returned from Afghanistan.
How was Quebec?
It was here that he and his friends started confiding in each other.
Up, 2, down, up, 3, down.
You can't really know, you can't really understand unless you've been there. I remember early on when I was preparing to deploy to Afghanistan, and people would ask me, is your wife going with you? You know, so that was the level of not understanding what we're going into.
We met about a year before deploying in 2008, roughly, yeah.
Mark's comrades, Pierre de Rossière and Eric Mantha, understand better than anyone. They served as helicopter medics when Mark was in charge of the combat hospital. It's one of the most traumatic and dangerous jobs in military medicine. Those who do it fly into firefights several times a day and deal with often catastrophic injuries. It takes a toll.
What am I going to tell my family? How am I going to put in words what I've seen and what I've done?
It may look like a casual gathering, but this is the first time that Eric and Pierre have spoken publicly about their own struggles.
We were raised in the old days where, I'm sorry, but men weren't able to cry. Men weren't able to show fear, to show that they're scared of something.
This kind of mateship and honesty is vital to the healing process. But the bonds shared between comrades can cause friction at home.
Sounds like me.
I was jealous. You know. Yes, I felt that I was not part of the game. I was not part of the team. I was his wife. So even though he talks to me about it, I've never went through those experiences. Yes, it's happened very often that military wives are jealous of the relationship that their husband have with the army.
When Pierre first got back from Afghanistan, he would pass out trying to do simple tasks like inserting an intravenous drip into the arm of a patient.
I went to work, and when I tried my first IV, that's where everything went black, and I lost it. And then afterwards I started drinking.
It was so debilitating, some nights Pierre would drink 12 beers and a bottle of rum just to get to sleep.
Coming back and having that feeling of being weak, being like physically and mentally drained and not being able to do your job, it wasn't something that we were ready to face. I wasn't ready to face that kind of challenge.
It's been an inner struggle for soldiers since wars began. In the First World War, it was known as shell shock.
Get that guy out of here, he's driving me nuts!
And as this training film shows, by World War II, the US Army was calling it combat exhaustion and taking it very seriously.
Gentlemen, you are not requested to treat these patients. You are directed to do so. May I acquaint you with a few statistics from recent campaigns? The size of the problem will startle you.
But the term post-traumatic stress wasn't coined until after the Vietnam War. Soldiers were coming home unable to cope with civilian life.
Southeast. Emergency medevac, ASAP. Top priority.
It was largely the Vietnam War that just forced itself on our attention.
Dr. Frank Ockberg was one of the original team of psychiatrists to develop the diagnosis of PTSD. He's been treating sufferers for decades.
But a friend of mine asked his patient, "When were you last in Vietnam?" And he took a while and he said, "Last night." It's 45 years ago. So it lingers. It has a grip. That's the point of understanding PTSD. The past feels like the present. There's a different physiology. The brain lights up as though it is dealing with smells that are still there. A lot of us of my generation opposed the war, and then we realized we shouldn't be opposing the warrior. That's the person who bore the battle for the rest of us, and he comes home with these symptoms of nightmares and flashbacks and anxiety, and he's numb.
They are the classic symptoms of PTSD: emotional numbing, anxiety, and memories that come crashing through as if they were real.
The brain dials it up. And my point about all of this is it's medical, it's physical. This is not simply an extreme of being nervous. And there was nothing wrong with you in the first place to cause you to experience this. What we really have to make it clear that if you come back from battle with classic diagnosable PTSD, it's an injury, just like having shrapnel in your abdomen.
But Dr. Ockberg has a simple message for those who are suffering.
I would start with the optimism that I genuinely feel. This condition has been around since trauma and tragedy has been around. And most people eventually recover, and they find others in their lives who respect them for who they are. It hurts for a while, and you feel like you're not yourself. It does take learning on the part of those who care.
Bill Nash was a psychiatrist in the US Marine Corps during the battle against insurgents in the Iraqi city of Fallujah in 2004.
There were many, many U.S. casualties because they would go door to door and these guys would be hiding behind mattresses or in the roof, shooting through holes in the ceiling, and so it was very bloody.
Hey, he's in that garage!
This one right here?
Yeah!
He's in there!
We got friendlies on the road!
His job was to take care of the minds of the Marines so they could keep fighting. He was surprised by what he found.
Before I went to Iraq, I believe, like a lot of other people believe, that it's, danger to one's own life that causes trauma.
Back me up, Matt. Back me up.
But that's not what I heard from these guys. And their lives were in danger every minute of every day. But that wasn't what traumatized them. That wasn't what bothered them day and night. It was when they failed to do something that they counted on themselves to do, when they failed to protect their buddy, failed to keep someone alive, and the medical people were hugely vulnerable to this.
Bill Nash has retired from the military and is living a gentler life in rural Virginia. He remains one of the leading researchers on the effects of trauma on medics in the military.
And I found that the medics were more likely to be treated for PTSD than the Marines, who were the trigger pullers. And I realized in treating some of them, and their trauma is failing to save lives, failing to do what they trusted us to do.
What is that feeling? What's it like?
It's a feeling of being afraid to mess up, or afraid to have the wrong diagnosis, the wrong treatment, of giving the wrong drug or something like that. It's, I don't know, it's ingrained in there now, so.
The only way to handle this potentially terminal injury and convalesce is, one, you go get professional help. You go and get professional help. There is no way around that.
General Romeo Dallaire was one of the first to speak out about PTSD in the Canadian military. He's regarded as a hero who deserves to be heard.
This is a potentially terminal injury. People die of this injury. Might not be next week, but it can be at any time. When we have this injury, we don't know whether it's next week, 2 months, 2 years. Some noise, some argument, some scenario could trigger us into a response that is uncontrollable and terminal.
Dallaire was the commander of United Nations peacekeepers during the 1994 Rwandan genocide. Almost 1 million people were killed, but General Dallaire wasn't given the resources or the mandate to stop it. All the while, the world watched on.
I need food, medicine, and material for 2 million people, and I got to stockpile it now. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if I may say in conclusion, we're all late. We're already weeks and weeks late.
He returned home with chronic PTSD.
General, can I ask you, from your personal experience, I know that for you, you've walked down this path yourself well and truly.
We crawled on it, we don't walk it.
You crawled it. How close did things come for you to taking a very different direction in terms of your life continuing?
I have publicly written and expressed the fact that I have attempted suicide 4 times. And the only reason I didn't succeed is the peer support was so tight that I wasn't able to finish it off. Tried, but it didn't work.
Despite his courage in horrific circumstances, General Dallaire was eventually forced out of the Canadian military.
I think the hardest part of it all was the day I signed my medical document that was describing my release from the forces, because I was medically released 6 years after. The medical release had one line: this officer cannot command troops in operations anymore. That was the culminating part of my realization that I was damaged goods, I was injured, and I had to refocus. And for those who have spent their life in command, you lost it. That was the hardest thing.
That door's moving. Somebody's been shot in here. Which door's moving? Finish you.
It's a deep wound in not only the mind, but the brain, the parts of the brain that are essential for controlling your own thinking, controlling your emotions, controlling your physiology. They're not working like they're supposed to anymore.
Anybody else going left? I'm gonna shoot it again.
And that is crippling for warriors, soldiers, Marines. Because one of the things that makes them who they are, why they went into that business in the first place, is that's what they're the best at. But these are guys who run into a fight calm, steady, focused. That's what makes them good at protecting us. They have this ability. But when they get post-traumatic stress, they lose that ability, and then they become deeply ashamed of themselves. Shame is a huge part of this because these are unacceptable things in a warrior.
Romeo Dallaire is now a senator in the Canadian Parliament and is using his high profile to fight for veterans who are battling PTSD.
There is no doubt in my military mind that unless they recognized that this injury is equivalent to any other physical injury, and that the medical support that's provided for the individual and for the family is requiring the equal treatment for those PTSD, you will never get ahead of the curve. And worse than that, you will never change the culture of your institution. You'll never get rid of that stigma. And you're going to be walking around with a bunch of soldiers that are nothing more than time bombs.
Keep working out. Just like a boxer or a swimmer will warm up before he goes in the water.
The military is now trying to get in step with the experts. Researchers found the most effective treatments for PTSD include professional counselling, peer support and medication.
I take 9 pills a day, and this is now 20 years after. So this medication has got to be looked at as an essential requirement of continuing to be able to live with this injury. It's your prosthesis.
The battle for recognition is also being won. Thanks to lobbying from General Dallaire, Canadian soldiers with PTSD are now eligible to receive an award called the Sacrifice Medal. Previously, it was only open to those who'd been physically wounded. Frank Ockberg wants America to do the same.
We want honor for our veterans with PTSD. We want the Purple Heart, which is a very important medal that says, I have fought for my country, I've been wounded, I sacrificed. I happen to think that the more we do to create honor and acceptance for the person who serves and who suffers when coming home is the biggest and the best thing we can do. We can learn from the women who have defeated the stigma of breast cancer. You know, you realize we never used to talk about it. That's a deadly disease. It has changed. We should do the same across the world for PTSD.
In ancient Greece, they had this concept of miasma, which was a moral pollution, a defilement. And it was the job of the whole society to help cleanse this pollution when they came back. That was the word catharsis. That's what it originally meant. It was this symbolic cleansing. I think we need, as a society, to help them, not just say, get away from me, I don't want to hear these stories. And it is hard to hear these stories, and they protect us from these stories.
I get to do the autopsy. It smells like cherry juice.
Yeah.
That's why Mark Defan tells his story with such honesty and detail. He doesn't want to be portrayed as a victim.
Yeah, this is what I like. Getting up in the morning, writing a bit or painting a bit.
He wants to reassure others that there is hope, even if PTSD takes you right to the edge.
Well, it's not permanent, and you're not in your normal state. You're not supposed to feel that way. So if you're feeling that way, go get help. Go see your buddies, go see your mates, as you say in Australia. Go see your doc, go see a medic, go see a nurse, go see a padre, and they'll point you in the right direction and you can get professional help.
I find myself saying different things to my own patients who have it. One of the last things I said to a person who has a feeling of dread, that the future is dark, I said, that's a sensation, not a prophecy.
What do you love about life now, General?
Oh, I've got so much to do. I'm pissed off because I only have maybe about 20 years left. I need another 20 years at least. That took nearly 10 years of hard therapy. There's lots of things to do. Once you've realized that the aim is not to get rid of the pain by killing it, which includes killing you, the aim is to look at something that will move you away from that and give you an objective, no matter how difficult it is, to try to reach. And that way, it eases the pain. So when people ask me, well, how do you live with this? And I say, I work hard and that eases the pain. So work hard, play hard, live hard. Live to live, and you will attenuate and control the pain.
It's been 4 years of hard work for Mark and Christine, but now it's all about appreciating the simple things. Their children have grown up, so they've brought in a new addition to the family.
We go.
We wanted to have a pup. She's so sweet that we have a family now. the two of us with the dog.
That's the way it was.
What kind of man do you have now?
Well, Mark is back. Yes, I think this experience, showed him that you can recover from war, I suppose.
Are you proud of what Mark did?
Oh my God, yes, I am. I am. And I'm proud that he's back now, that he can have a certain distance and see what he did with different eyes.
She likes the water.
Most importantly, I brought everybody back home. I did not lose anybody. I did not lose a nurse or a med tech, although I almost did. No, I'm very, very happy. So overall, I have very positive. The pluses are more than the minuses. I was in the big parade, and I'm part of history. Can't take that away from me now.